My name's Doran Wright, and welcome to our 13th annual Healthy Hearing Expo. As many of you know, we used to have these down at the convention center once a year where we give presentations and give an opportunity to meet some of our suppliers. As you know, current circumstances have moved us online, and we're quite enjoying it. Everyone's used to the online meetings now, knows how to do it, and we're reaching a lot more of our customers and new customers this way. So it's quite successful. Again, this is our 13th year, and it's something that we like to do community outreach just to bring our message of hearing healthcare to our customers and to some new people. So we have a couple more opportunities for presentations after this one. At 1:30, we're going to talk to Christine about how to use your apps with your hearing aids. If you have hearing aids or are considering hearing aids, you know that the apps on the phone come with the hearing aids now, and they're quite powerful in what they can do. So Christine is going to walk us through how to use those apps and what we can do, either if you're thinking about hearing aids or currently using hearing aids. At 3 o'clock, we have a highly anticipated Erin speaking about what's new for hearing aids in 2022. Every year she gives a rundown of manufacturers' new product offerings for the new year, and there's some exciting products coming out. Um, there's some exciting products that are coming out by the manufacturers. So Erin's going to run you through those. Now, who we're gonna be talking to now is Jan Clark. Now, she works for one of our manufacturers, Phonak Canada. Phonak is a partner of ours at Broadmead and Oak Bay Hearing Clinic. Jan runs the audiology department there. I think she has, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 audiologists that support clinics across Canada, support their products, and we have a lot of successful patient outcomes with Phonak products. So, Jan, I know that you have a long history in Canada, so why don't you give us your background, and I'll pass it over to you.
The group for the entire talk. I'll close my camera in a moment. But I did want to just say hello and to thank Doran and also Dr. Erin Wright tremendously for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. And thank you too for taking time out of your day to come and learn a little more about how you can enhance some of the hearing healthcare measures that you would get through Broadmead Hearing. What we're going to be looking at is how to sort of take the technology that you're going to learn more about this afternoon or that you may already have and enhance it to really get the maximum benefit from it. So I'm not sure how this has been done in the past, but what I may do is as I'm speaking, if you have questions, if you want to type them in the chat, and then what we can do is if there's time that's allowed at the end, we can go through some of those questions together. If not, at least they're recorded, and then I could do some answers for them, and those could be potentially emailed out to you. So I don't know if that sounds like a plan, Doran, but that's what we'll do for now. So I'm going to turn my camera off so we can start with the presentation. So let's get started and see what some of the things are that you can do to take your hearing aid technology, or if you're considering hearing aid technology, to the next level in terms of the benefit you can receive from it. So firstly, in terms of your journey with your hearing, we do know that hearing loss challenges are not completely fitted or eliminated after fitting a hearing aid or a cochlear implant. And I'm sure you've either spoken to those or had personal experience where the hearing aid has certainly given you a lot more awareness of sound, but it can sometimes, especially in the early days of getting hearing technology, be somewhat overwhelming. And what we know is that if we can offer some additional tools um, to help people maximize the benefit from the hearing aid technology, then there are actually spin-off effects in terms of how people manage with particularly challenging situations like hearing and noise, which is often the main reason that people end up going to a hearing clinic in the first place, because they're starting to have some trouble hearing in background noise. Okay, so why is, especially if you've plucked up the courage, gone in to get an assessment, acknowledged that you could benefit from some amplification, you've got a hearing aid. Why are we saying that it isn't always enough just to have done that? So I'm just seeing some people are saying they've got an echo problem. Has it, I wonder if my volume's too high. If I bring it down a bit, is that too quiet? Is that any better? We'll just see if that helps. But what we know from research is that the brain is plastic. And by that, we mean that if you rehearse or practice or perform certain functions over and over again, the brain actually commits those neural pathways that get fired when you do that particular activity. it, it cements those. Now, if, for example, you've been able to hear high-pitched sounds for a long time, and then you gradually lose some of your hearing in the high-pitched sounds, what can happen is the brain takes the area that would have processed those high-pitched sounds and it uses it for something else. So it might start using it for some of the mid-range sounds, or sometimes even other things altogether, like feelings or perceptions. So what we need to do when the hearing aid is fitted, for example, a new hearing aid to someone that's never worn one before, is we need to give the brain lots and lots of practice of hearing these sounds again, which it hasn't heard for a long time. And by wearing the hearing aid more and practicing more with the amplified sound, the brain can actually reorganize itself to take advantage of that information. So what we know from hearing aids in some folks is that when you fit the technology, they're aware of sounds, but not necessarily aware of what those sounds mean or can make sense of them. They almost have to relearn to match some sounds to the source. So we know that hearing aids help us pick up the sounds, but it doesn't address the understanding of sounds or words, or you know picking speech out of background noise, because that's a function of the brain, not a function of the ear. So I think the one message I would take away from this is that this ability of the brain to learn and reorganize itself doesn't have an age limit on it, and I find that tremendously hopeful and a positive thing. So it really doesn't matter how old you are, the brain is capable of this plasticity. You might just need to wear the hearing aids a little bit longer to get more practice. Now, one other benefit of stimulating the brain is not only that it strengthens the pathways that are important for language and for listening and developing our thinking and our cognitive development, but it also refines our top-down processing or understanding. And what I mean by that is top-down. That means from the brain down. So as we get older and we've got a full, rich life full of experiences, we've got a well-developed language system at our fingertips, we can use that knowledge to fill in the gaps. So if we miss some information, we're using our experience of the world and our experience of language to fill in the gaps. A child that is learning language doesn't have that ability. So never let anyone say that aging is terrible, it actually has some benefits because you gather wisdom and knowledge. So that's all a good thing. The other thing about stimulating the brain is it helps us improve the perception of speech, and especially the perception of speech in noise, which can be very challenging. And also anything that we use to help us understand speech, any thinking processes like our focus or our attention or the speed at which we can process the information coming in or our working memory, all these things with some practice or with some activities to strengthen them can actually help with this top-down processing and help us develop the understanding side of speech and sound and music and language when we get our hearing loss addressed by a hearing aid, for example. So what is auditory skills training and why is it useful? I think we've already looked at some of the things, and what I would say is auditory skills training by itself isn't really as useful as if it supplements a well-fitted hearing aid. So it is supplemental to the hearing aid management. So what it can do is it can strengthen clinical outcomes, because if you are enhancing the skills from auditory skills training, it will improve the way that you make the best use out of your hearing aid devices. It also helps you adjust to the technology. And I would say in that instance, what it would do is be able to give you some really targeted feedback to give to your audiologist so that they can fine tune that device for your very specific listening environments. And modern hearing aid technology has other things in it, in the devices that help clinicians with that as well. And I put this last one not lightly. It can improve quality of life. If you are, it's a positive cycle. If you are experiencing success with your hearing aid, if you do some of this training, so you're taking ownership of managing your hearing loss, and you come to a point where you can cope better in background noise, or you don't get as fatigued in background noise, that would mean that you'd want to wear your hearing aid more because it's a positive experience. And it may also prevent that slow withdrawal from social functions that sometimes happens to people with hearing loss because they find them so difficult to listen in that it's easier just to extract themselves from those social interactions. Now, I know that at present and over the last 2.5 years, social interactions maybe haven't been entirely face to face. But even if they're not, or even if you're still practicing physical distancing, masks can cause quite a lot of additional trouble in terms of using that top-down processing, because you're going to be missing some of the visual cues. So anything we can do to make your response and your use of the hearing aid technology stronger will stand you in good stead. So let's have a look at the clinical outcomes. As I said, it can help improve your speech recognition and speech perception. So speech perception means that you perceive someone's talking, and speech recognition means that you then understand what they're saying. And it can do these sorts of auditory skills training exercises can help improve speech perception in quiet and in noise, and it can reduce your listening effort. And if it reduces listening effort, it means you're going to be overall less fatigued if you're in social environments, which might encourage you to participate more, which can lead to a fuller, richer social life. Okay. The other thing that we've noted in some studies is that auditory skills training can not only increase people being willing to adopt hearing aid technology, but it can absolutely improve satisfaction. with hearing aid technology. And as I said, the more satisfied you are, the more you're likely to wear the devices in a range of situations, and the more you're able to live your life as fully and richly as possible with regards to communication. It can also give you more confidence. It does take a lot of personal confidence to acknowledge that one has a hearing loss and to seek help to do something about it. For some people, they still feel very much a stigma of wearing a hearing aid, although nowadays a lot of the devices are very discreet and very small. But it, it can improve that confidence that allows you then, as I said, to go out and to do things that you might have either you used to do and you stopped doing because it was too difficult to hear, or things that you've always wanted to try. That if you're feeling more confident in your ability to hear and understand in a range of listening environments, you're more likely to take part, which is fantastic. And that could reduce some of those limitations you might have in day-to-day life. Also, the improved confidence, people pick that up, right? So people would be aware of the fact that you are appearing confident and would be more likely to engage or communicate with you as well. Now, one of the things that when we talk about auditory skills training, I am talking about a particular set of exercises and tools that are available online for free. And I can provide Dr. Wright and Mr. Wright, some written information on this to send out to you. But the website is www.hearingsuccess.com. I do have to say that this is the work of audiologists that work for two companies that is owned by Phonex's parent company. So Advanced Bionics, who produce cochlear implants, and Phonak with the hearing aids. But the actual exercises themselves are not linked to a specific model of device. So it really doesn't matter what type of hearing technology you use. There are tools on this website for free that you can have full access to. But just to reinforce that these were not designed, the tools, by marketing people or our engineers. These were designed by audiologists and speech language pathologists. So there are two aspects to what you will find on this online portal. You will find something called Word Success, which helps you deal with phrases and words and practices them in increasing levels of difficulty. And you can pick that in terms of background noise levels, the types of noise levels you hear. And then Sound Success, which is really interesting because it goes beyond speech and looks at things like, can you train your hearing using some music as tools? So for example, it gives you very easy examples of listening to different types of guitar music, classical guitar music, and then it will give you a piece where that is embedded. The guitar music is embedded in, say, a full orchestra setup, and they ask you to focus on the guitar. So it's training your brain not only in things like music, but also in auditory attention and focus, which is equally important in terms of learning to understand all the additional auditory input you're going to get with your hearing aids. And all you would do when you log into the www.hearingsuccess.com is you have to register. There's no charge for that. And then you would, in the right-hand upper corner, there's a little drop-down menu, and you would select that you're an adult with a hearing aid. So it would pull up the tools that are appropriate for people with hearing aids versus, say, people with cochlear implants. The lovely thing about this being online is that you don't have to travel anywhere to get to it. it's not going to cost you anything. And because it's online, you can access it whenever you feel you have the time. So you're not set to a certain appointment time. So really, if you're having a relatively quiet day or afternoon at home, you could choose to do this. The other thing is that, as I said, it doesn't just give you speech or picking out words or phrases in background noise. It also allows you to practice listening to someone and focusing in on someone without needing another communication partner to help you. So you can do this totally under your own steam, in your own time, in your own home, even in your PJs if you wanted to. And I think you would get the satisfaction because it's graded in difficulty, where you can go at your own pace and you can go back if you're having particular difficulties with something. And you can do as much or as little as you want to. So it is customizable. The word success can actually also be an app. The sound success is usually something that you would use your tablet or your computer to access. But as I said, everything's first loaded on one page. You select the fact that you wear a hearing aid and you're an adult, because you will see some tools that are specifically for teens or specifically for young children. And then, as I said, you can access that whenever or how or whatever attire you're wearing at the time. That's fine, because you don't have to physically go anywhere. The other thing too is you can share the results, or you can discuss your results with your clinician if that's something that you would like to do. And it will hold your place as to where you got to, the level that you got to in a particular area or of function. And then you can pick up where you left off when you come back into the portal. So really, as I said, very easy way to practice. And as I said, there's also some rehabilitation support. It can give you some speech reading skills, some communication tips. And one of the other nice things about the web page is it actually also has a sort of a blog, number one, that you can read input from people that wear hearing aids and some of their experiences, but it also gives you a place where you could chat with others that share the fact that they have hearing loss and have chosen to do something about it. And often there's no one that's really going to understand you and some of the challenges that you might have faced as much as someone that's having some of the same difficulties, number one. And number two, it can be a way of kind of motivating or sort of encouraging you to do a bit more on this training site if you've got a competitive spirit, for example. Okay, so as I said, there's some tips and strategies for communicating that you can share with those that you talk to regularly. There's some generic information on hearing technology. There are some exercises to practice listening skills. And one of the lovely ones that I liked was it's a song that plays and it's got the lyrics in front of you, but it leaves some words out. And so as you're listening, you're anticipating that line that's got a word missing and then waiting for it and listening for it, and filling in those gaps. So it's really trying to find lots of interesting ways to, focus your attention and to pay attention to what's being said accurately. And then, as I said, also this online community of people that have the same challenges. So let's take Noah here as an example. He says, I need to follow conversations at my large family dinner table every night. I want to be able to carry on a conversation at a crowded local cafe with my buddies. And I want to be able to hear the speaker at my local community lecture each month. So what additional actions can you take to address his expectations and make them realistic expectations for hearing in those 3 communicative environments that he's identified. So certainly one of them is getting seen by an audiologist, having hearing assessed, and based on the hearing loss, fitting appropriate technology and measuring that that's providing the right balance of sound for him. You can also remind him that the brain needs to practice to learn how to make sense of sounds that it hasn't heard for quite a while in the same balance. You can also remind Noah that, hey, if you do some structured, repetitive auditory skills training, that is very carefully graded in levels of difficulty at your own pace, at your own home, this could help you train so that in those environments he identified, he won't be as fatigued and he'll actually have more success. You could also say that, there's this wonderful website, HearingSuccess.com, and he can sign up there for free and get some of these skills trainings. Or you could tell him all of the above. And I think if you have been able to join us for this talk so far, you'll realize that the correct answer for that was all of the above. And that's how you could support Noah. So I would say give Hearing Success a try. It's going to cost you nothing, only a little bit of time. And you might actually find it's a lot of fun. And before you know it, you're so busy focusing on your hearing and your understanding and listening that, the focus on the actual physical device behind your ear or inside your ear is not as great as it was when you first got your hearing aid.